20 years ago in China, talking about sex in public was almost impossible. It was like a taboo. But today, Western culture has permeated in through media, business, cultural exchange, and those taboos are fading fast. This is the reality of cultural exchange. Sometimes it protects traditions, sometimes it erodes them. In this video, you will learn how to turn this idea into a strong body paragraph too, with advanced grammars, vocabularies, and collocations, and then wrap it up with a band 9 strong conclusion. By the end, you will be ready to show examiners that you can argue both sides, and that's the secret to scoring high in IELTS Writing Task 2. Alright everyone, let's start with a really important sentence from our essay. I want you to listen carefully because we are going to break it down piece by piece. Grammar, vocabulary, and exam tips you can actually use in your writing in IELTS. It says, while tourism provides a driving force for cultural conversation, some components of a culture such as traditions, customs, or taboos might die out over time. Alright, let me give you a phrase that instantly level up your essay vocabulary, provides a driving force. Now, don't think of it like this, like another collocation, you know. Think of it like this. Imagine a huge engine underneath a culture, giving it power, giving it energy, pushing it forward. That engine is tourism. So when we say tourism provides a driving force, we mean tourism is not passive. It's active, it's really powerful. It doesn't just support culture, it pushes culture. It keeps traditions alive. It motivates government to protect heritage, and it gives people a reason to preserve what makes their identity unique. And why it's an excellent academic collocation. It is really versatile for almost any topic, and it is really natural in band 8-9 writing. Guys, listen. When we say tourism causes cultural exchange, that's okay. But when you say tourism provides a driving force for cultural exchange, suddenly your writing sounds powerful, academic, elegant, and it is really perfect to use it. It is more advanced than causes, leads to, or result in. And listen, this pattern, X provides a driving force for Y. Same meaning as X pushes Y to happen, but with far more power. Tourism provides a driving force for cultural exchange. For example, technology provides a driving force for economic development, or social media provides a driving force for political activism. You can use them in your writing to level up your vocabulary. All right, let's take this phrase even deeper. If you want to sound like a high-band IELTS writer, you can't keep repeating provides a driving force again and again. You need a strong, precise synonyms, and each one carries a slightly different flavor. Let me show you the best ones. First, we have fuels. This is the closest to our original meaning. If tourism fuels cultural preservation, it's giving it energy, like petrol in a car. Short, powerful, fantastic for IELTS. And next, powers. Instead of using provides a driving force, you can say powers something powers something else. This one feels mechanical, like an engine. It's amazing when you want to sound forceful. Tourism provides cultural protection. Then we have stimulates. This is softer and more academic. It means something encourages growth. If you want to sound extremely sophisticated, use catalyze or acts as a catalyst for. This is a scientific language. It means something speeds up a process. Examiners love these high-level expressions when used correctly. You need to know the powerful collocations that naturally go with driving force. Let's break them down. First, be the driving force behind. This is one of the strongest structures. You are basically saying something is the main power engine. For example, education is the driving force behind social progress. This sounds like a real speech from the UN. And next, provides a driving force for. You already know this one from the essay. It means to give the energy that moves something forward. For example, tourism provides a driving force for cultural preservation. Third, serve as a driving force in. This one is more academic, more elegant. Use it for processes and systems. Technology serves as a driving force in economic growth. Fourth, act as the driving force of. This is when you want a very formal tone. Innovation acts as a driving force of modern industries, perfect for Band 9 essays. And finally, remain the main driving force behind. This one is great when you want to add certainty. You know, public demand remains the main driving force behind policy exchange. Now let's talk about one of the richest parts of this sentence: traditions, customs, and taboos. Traditions, customs, and taboos are perfect here. You know, these three words look similar, but they actually represent three different levels of culture. First, we have traditions. These are the big, beautiful, and long-lasting cultural rituals, the things your grandparents taught your parents and your parents taught you. Think of Nowruz, Christmas, weddings, Ramadan, New Year rituals. These are not just actions. These are heritage. Next, we move one level smaller to customs. These are everyday habits. Customs are showing everyday habits, how we greet, how we eat, how we behave in daily life. It could be bowing in Japan, shaking hands in the West, or taking your shoes off in Iran. Customs are the daily language of culture. And finally, the deepest layer, taboos. These are the forbidden topics, the things society says don't talk about it. And in some culture, it would be money, in others it is sex, in others it's politics, or even personal relationships. And so when the essay says traditions, customs, or taboos, it's covering everything from the surface rituals to the everyday habits and hidden or sensitive rules. This range shows how cultural identity can fade in multiple ways, not just in festivals, but in behaviors, communication, or even the silent rules that shape society. All right, before we go deeper, let's level up your vocabulary with some high-impact synonyms for these three cultural layers. And listen, these aren't random dictionary words. These are words that make your writing sound intelligent, professional, and exam ready. Let's start with traditions. When we want to sound a little more academic, you can say heritage practices and long established ceremonies or ancestral rituals. These phrases give your sentence weight. They show you are talking about culture with depth, not just surface activities. Now, let's move to customs. Customs are those everyday social habits, handshakes, greetings, drinking styles. So instead of repeating customs, you can use behavioral norms, social habits, cultural conventions, or daily practices. These are excellent for IELTS because they are really precise but still natural. And finally, taboos. The secret forbidden topics. Here, your synonym needs to feel strong and sensitive. So, you can say forbidden subjects, socially prohibited behaviors, or off-limits topics, or culturally sensitive issues. These sound sophisticated and instantly raise the level of your argument. All right, let's zoom in on the phrase cultural conversation, which is one of the most elegant metaphors in this paragraph, where the writer says, tourism provides a driving force for cultural conversation. They are not talking about people literally sitting at a table and chatting. No, this is a metaphorical language. Cultural conversation refers to the exchange of ideas, values, habits, and worldwide, those ideas that exchange between different societies. Think of it like this. When a tourist walks through a local market, tries the food, interacts with people, observe local etiquettes, cultures are speaking to each other, even without words. That's why this metaphor is so powerful. It captures the idea that cultures communicate through behavior, through art, media, business, and everyday life. If you want to sound even more academic in IELTS, you can replace it with expressions like cultural exchange, intercultural dialogue, cross-cultural interaction, or the more sophisticated cultural interplay or cross-border cultural flow. These synonyms instantly raise the lexical quality of your answer and show your ability to describe complex cultural processes. And you can use some collocations with this, like promote cultural conversation, encourage intercultural understanding. Use this phrase in essay when we're talking about interaction between countries. Now let's break down the phrase die out, because these tiny expressions plays a huge role in academic writing. When the sentence says that certain cultural components might die out over time, it means they gradually disappear, slowly fading until they no longer exist. This isn't a sudden change, it's a long, quiet decline. In IELTS, this phrase is extremely powerful because it describes cultural loss, language extinction, and the impacts of globalization. And if you want to elevate your vocabulary, try alternatives like fade away, fall out of use, erode over time, or the more formal, become extinct. This instantly makes your writing more academic and precise. Okay, putting it all together, tourism acts as an engine. Provides a driving force. It encourages people to share and interact. Cultural conversation, but different parts of culture means traditions, taboos, customs could gradually disappear. Might die out over time. In short, tourism helps culture grow, but some traditions can fade away. This is a topic sentence for body paragraph 2. It introduces the idea that tourism, while positive, may also harm culture. Let's stop for a second on this little word, while. The word while here has nothing to do with time. Be careful, it's not when. Instead, it acts as a contrast marker, just like although, whereas. Most students only know it is it is showing during for time. For example, I was cooking while she was watching TV. That's the time meaning. But in academic writing, while often means also. It introduces a contrast, so the writer is doing something very clever. It's saying, yes, tourism helps protect cultural heritage, but at the same time, it can also cause parts of that culture to disappear. This is the perfect structure for an IELTS topic sentence. One side gives the benefit, the other gives the drawback, and together they set up a beautifully balanced paragraph. Remember, when while is used like this, it is your signal that the writer wants you to see two opposing forces operating at the same moment. Before we dive deeper into globalization, let's decode a sentence that beautifully captures how cultures change over time. It seems that this is the original sentence. It seems that in some countries, the locals have become more accustomed to exotic cultures. Here, the writer is telling us that in many parts of the world, people are getting increasingly comfortable with cultures that used to feel foreign or unfamiliar. Now let's break down the grammar, not in a boring way, but in a way that actually helps you use it. Look at how this sentence is built. It starts with it seems that, the soft opening. It seems that a perfect way to hedge your opinion. Very academic, better than directly saying people are, because it avoids overgeneralization. Then we see the locals. We discussed about the synonyms of locals in topic 1, meaning residents, the native people, local inhabitants. Look at the sentence on slide. The locals have become more accustomed to exotic cultures. Have become as present perfect tense. That means something started in the past, it continued, and the result is still true now. For example, I have lived in London for 3 years. I started in the past and still live there now. Same idea here. The locals gradually changed in the past, and even today they are used to those new cultures. Second, don't confuse this with the passive voice, because accustomed is not a verb here. It's an adjective phrase, just like saying they are familiar with or they are used to. So the structure is subject plus have become plus accustomed to. Third, what does it actually mean? Accustomed to simply means used to or familiar with. So have become accustomed to exotic cultures means they have gradually got used to foreign lifestyles, traditions, or habits. I have become accustomed to drinking tea every morning. It wasn't my habit before, but now it is. They have become accustomed to online classes. In the past, it was strange, but now it feels normal. So here's the IELTS tip. Remember the formula. Have or has plus become accustomed to plus noun or gerund. It shows gradual change and present results. That's the key. And finally, exotic cultures, meaning unusual, foreign, different. So the sentence is really saying in some countries, local people are getting used to foreign cultural habits. Imagine you walk into a cafe in a small town and the locals are drinking lattes, listening to K-pop, and scrolling TikTok 20 years ago. That would have been strange, but now they are become accustomed to exotic cultures. This sentence paints the picture. Locals adjusting to things that once felt foreign. Now let's talk about the word exotic. Here is the trick. Exotic has several synonyms. Not every synonym of exotics works naturally with culture. For example, exotic culture is perfect. It means a culture that feels foreign or fascinatingly different. But if you say bizarre culture, oh, that sounds rude. Like you are calling the culture crazy or strange. So we don't use bizarre with culture. It's better with behavior, story, or event. Same with outlandish. Another synonym of exotic is outlandish. You can say outlandish clothes or outlandish behavior, but not outlandish culture. It feels unnatural and judgmental. If you want a softer and descriptive version, you can say foreign culture, unfamiliar culture, exotic culture, distant culture. Those sounds respectful and academic, perfect for IELTS writing tasks too. So remember, exotic culture means natural and impressive. Bizarre or outlandish culture sounds negative or odd. Foreign or distant culture, safe, smart, and IELTS friendly. It reflects, this is the original sentence. I'm saying it reflects the combined effects of the invasion of foreign cultures, either through media or through direct business interaction. This sentence means the fact that locals have adapted to foreign lifestyles is the result of multiple forces, mainly the influence of international media and business connections. The phrase combined effects is academic and elegant. When foreign movies, music, ads enter a country, that's one channel of cultural invasion. The media, when global companies bring their products or management styles, that's business interaction. Together, these forces combine and shape local habits. That's exactly what it reflects. The combine effects means more than one factor is working together. You can use this model in your writing. Media plus business equals cultural change. And the word invasion is metaphorical. We are not talking about soldiers, but about ideas, about values, about lifestyles entering another culture through media or business. This structure either or gives clarity, rhythms. It's an excellent model for IELTS writing task too. The word invasion means an attack by an army when soldiers enter another country, as I said before, by force. But here there is no real army. Be careful. It's used, as I said, metaphorically to describe how foreign culture entered and influenced local societies, sometimes strongly, even overpowering local traditions. So the word invasion is a metaphor. It doesn't mean soldiers are coming. Be careful about this. And now let's see how we can turn a simple sentence like it reflects the combined effects of cultural invasion into a sophisticated IELTS Mat 9 structures. Watch how each upgrade changes the form. Grammar, the power of expression, mirrors, advanced synonyms for reflect, intertwined impacts means showing how different forces mix. Foreign cultural penetration, more formal than invasion. Manifest through elegant academic connector, global media exposure, or a cross-border commercial engagement. That is really sophisticated. Replacement for true media or business interaction in the original sentence. Okay guys, let's look at a super interesting example because it shows real cultural exchange. Here is the sentence. For example, 2 decades ago, sex was a taboo subject in China and most Chinese people felt embarrassed to talk openly about it. Let's break it down piece by piece so it becomes unforgettable. 2 decades ago, academic time phrase. Instead of saying 20 years ago, the writer uses an academic expression 2 decades ago. This sounds more formal, more mature, and more appropriate for IELTS writing task 2. Sex was a taboo subject. Powerful cultural vocabulary. The key phrase here is every culture has taboos. Money, religion, personal relationship, appearance even, dating, family matters. And in China, sex used to be one of the strongest taboos. Most Chinese people felt embarrassed, emotional reaction. This part explains the social reaction at the time. Felt embarrassed, felt uncomfortable, shy, or ashamed to discuss it. This is a natural emotional verb used in social topics, in cultural exchange, cultural changes, public attitudes, and it's 100% accurate in showing how cultural taboos affect behaviors. To talk openly about it, perfect adverb placement. The phrase talk openly means talk honestly, talk directly, without hiding anything. And grammatically, it is placed after the verb, a natural position for adverbs of manner. The whole meaning, the sentence tells us 20 years ago in China, sex was socially forbidden. People didn't feel comfortable discussing it. This shows how cultural norms were much stricter in the past. This leads beautifully into the next idea about Western influence changing cultural attitudes. Let's break down this powerful sentence. When we say Western culture has permeated into the Chinese lifestyle, we are using the verb permeate, which is a high-level academic verb. It means something spreads slowly and deeply, like dye soaking into fabric or scent filling a room. So here, Western ideas did not arrive over time. They gradually entered daily habits, fashion, food choices, entertainment, relationships, basically everyday life. Permeate means to spread gradually into every part of something. Then we have the phrase time-honored tradition. This is an elegant way to describe traditions that have been respected for generations. The sentence tells us that under the influence of foreign culture, Chinese people have let go of or changed some part of these long-lasting practices and customs. Actually influence the Western has made many Chinese people change or break some of these long-held traditions. And finally, the writer adds a global perspective. It occurs in the rest of the word as well. This closing sentence is powerful because it reminds the reader that cultural change is not unique to China. Globalization has created a world where ideas, where habits, lifestyles constantly cross borders. As a result, many nations are gradually adapting new values while letting go of certain traditional customs. This is not only in China. Many countries experience cultural influence from abroad. Here are accurate natural synonyms for time-honored traditions that you can confidently use it. Long-lasting traditions or long-standing traditions means traditions that have existed for a very long time. The second, age-old traditions, meaning extremely old, often culturally or historically important. For example, age-old traditions in many regions are being replaced by modern lifestyle. Centuries-old practices, meaning practices that have been followed for hundreds of years. For example, centuries-old practices in rural communities are disappearing gradually. Heritage customs or cultural heritage, meaning traditions that belong to a group's cultural identity. Traditional values, long-held values, meaning not physical rituals, but beliefs people have followed for generations. For example, many societies are re-evaluating their long-held values in the modern era. And seven, well-established customs, meaning customs that have existed for a long time and are widely accepted, formal but simple. For example, well-established customs may fade as younger generations adopt new lifestyles. Which ones are closest in meaning to time-honored traditions? The most accurate replacements are age-old traditions, long-standing traditions, and centuries-old practices. Over time, about grammar analysis is really advanced and it shows gradual change. Western culture has permeated into the Chinese lifestyle. It is present perfect, has permeated, shows a process that started in the past and continued until now, permeated into, be careful with the preposition of it, meaning to spread throughout. And the Chinese people have broken many of their time-honored traditions. Is present perfect again. Have broken, meaning past actions whose results are seen today. Time-honored traditions, adjective plus noun. Time-honored means respected because it is old, rooted in history, and it occurs in the rest of the word. Is simple present, expresses a general truth. As outlined above. All right, let's break down one of the most academic, most elegant conclusion sentences in this entire essay as outlined above. Look at this beautiful phrase. It tells the examiner, I'm structured, I'm coherent, I know how to guide my reader. This is not casual English. This is academic control. Then we hit the core idea, increased tradition between countries in the domains of business and culture. This phrase alone is benign. We are not saying countries meet more or people mix more. We are saying cross-border interactions in business and in culture, the two most powerful engines of globalization. And notice the elegant balance here can either strengthen or undermine the identities of the countries involved. This is the professional writing. You are showing the examiner both sides perfectly academic. It tells the reader cultural exchange is complicated. It can protect identity and it can destroy it. And then comes my favorite part. To date, there is no definite answer to this question. This is the ultimate academic ending. You are saying, look, the world is changing, cultures are shifting, and even experts don't agree. This is how you can conclude like a pro, not a student. If you can produce sentences like this in your IELTS writing task 2, you are already performing at band 8 or 9. Thank you so much for watching today's lesson. If this helped you understand the conclusion more deeply, the grammar points, vocabularies, advanced ones, make sure you join me in the next lesson. We are building your writing sentence by sentence. Take care, keep learning, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching this video.